Speaking of cool, a gentleman who we always enjoy talking to, because he's a ball of fire, and he just told me that only sleeps about 3 hours a night, and so he's my hero already. Aajonus Vonderplanitz, We Want to Live. He's a primal diet guy, a health advocate, a natural scientist, a real scientist. He understands the body, and he's also a real advocate for health freedom, which I think we'll talk a bit about next hour, because I've got some ideas about that I want to share with you, Aajonus, and also the E. coli thing. Maybe we'll get some ideas. But right now we'll say good morning to Mr. Vonderplanitz. How are you?
Well, I'm great. How about you?
Well, I'm terrific. You sound. I asked you if you get up early. Generally, it's 7 o'clock where you are. You say, "Oh, well, I get up about 3."
Yes, I usually go to sleep about 11 o'clock and get up about 3. So I sleep 3 to 4 hours.
Wow. How long have you been doing that?
Oh, probably 4 years now, 5 years.
No. So what about this thing that we're always told we need 8 hours of sleep, Aajonus?
Well, if you're unhealthy, you definitely need a lot of sleep. 90% of healing happens in the sleep state. But I've been on a raw diet over 40 years, since almost 40 years, February 72.
Uh-huh.
I'm coming up on my 40th anniversary on raw.
40 years.
Yeah. However, I didn't start eating raw meat on a daily basis until December of 82. And that was the big thrust of health, beginning to eat raw meat daily, twice daily.
Uh-huh.
Gave me the strength, and as I've been on it, and then I've been able to reduce, healthier I get, the less sleep I need.
What do you think do you think that it's easier for the body to digest foods that are raw?
Well, completely. I have people who have Crohn's and all kinds of inflammatory bowel disease, and once they get on to eating the raw meats and the raw dairy, all of a sudden all of that distress just goes away. For some people it isn't overnight. For instance, one time I had the wife of a full professor at USC, and she had been to the regular allopathic doctors for 6 years, and she was wasting away in skin and bones. And because they look at measurements, they really know nothing. The medical profession, they base all of those figures on the pharmaceutical industry's need for profit. So all those tests are geared to say, oh, you need medication, take this, instead of finding out what really goes on is trouble with the body. So I realized that she had a Crohn's condition, and I put her on nothing but raw eggs and honey and butter for almost 2 years. And within about, I guess it was 2.5 months, she had gained about 5 pounds, and she was skin and bones. And her husband, he was, just pacifying her, coming to the consult with me, and he thought I was a quack. And he gave me the evil eye anytime she wasn't looking, and I mean the evil eye, threatening.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm used to that. So, because it is a radical diet, and everybody's conditioned to think that raw meat creates parasites, although there's not one study on it whatsoever. On empirical study, it's all nonsense, theoretical. And then after she gained the weight in just 2.5 months, guess who came for a consult?
Her husband.
He did. So, and they're both on it, and that was 11 years ago.
Well, this might be an interesting thing for us to follow and learn something. Crohn's, is that an infection? Let's see, do I remember? Is that a small intestine kind of? What's going on with Crohn's disease?
Well, it can be anywhere in the intestines, large or small.
Uh-huh.
In Crohn's, the way I have observed it, everybody has their interpretation of what Crohn's is, and of course the medical profession has a perspective on the body and diseases that has nothing to do with reality. So they will never cure anything, and they're meaningfully not curing anything because there's no profit in cure. And Crohn's, in my study, is the body's inability to form mucus on the intestinal wall. So the acids from your own digestive tract will eat away at the intestinal wall, and it becomes thinner and thinner. When you're in third and fourth stage, you can have leaky gut, which means if you eat too much at one time or eat something that causes a tear in the intestinal tract, then undigested food will leak into the gut.
Oh, that's what's called leaky gut.
Correct. And then then your body has to digest that undigested food somewhere, so it sends it to the joints.
Uh-huh.
And then the joints create acids that break down that food. So your joints become a digestive tract. So usually the food will go to the knees or the hip joints first. Sometimes it'll go to the shoulders or elbows, but it depends upon the individual.
So this mucus, Aajonus, would want to be in the small and large intestines.
If you don't have a coating of a good layer of mucus there, then of course your body will just digest its own intestinal tract.
And why would someone not have this mucus in the case of Crohn's?
Poor diet.
Just cooked food or too many carbs and all that stuff. Standard American diet?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. So then when you gave this gal, this lady, to eat the raw meats and dairy, and why does that introduce mucus into the intestines?
Well, mucus is formed predominantly by a combination of fats and proteins.
Huh.
And eggs are a good way to form it, but not thickly. But I needed her to digest something that was very easily digestible. And eggs digest in about 27 minutes because it's all liquid, so your body doesn't have to generate acids. You don't even need hydrochloric acid to digest eggs because it's already liquid. 90% of our digestion ideally is bacterial. So the bacteria consumes the food. Its waste products is our diet, our food. Now, a lot of people are very squeamish, and the medical profession loves squeamishness because people who are squeamish are in fear. And that's how they operate. But if you understand that everything we eat, everything we absorb and utilize is the feces, urine, and sweat of the bacteria. That's how we live. We have 150 bacterial genes to every one human gene, especially in the digestive tract. So we aren't even 1% human. We are bacterial. But the medical profession bases all of their rhetoric on the fact that the ill fact or the misfact that bacteria causes disease, and it does not.
Yeah.
Industrial pollution causes disease, including cooking.
Now, you had a stint in way back when where your vagus nerve was damaged and you weren't producing any hydrochloric acid. Is that correct?
Well, that is still true. When I had cancer of the stomach, they performed a vagotomy on me, which means they severed all the vagus nerves to my stomach so I would never again secrete hydrochloric acid. That was never reconnected. Don't know that it ever could be reconnected.
Uh-huh.
So I do not produce hydrochloric acid in my stomach.
But we're told that we need this hydrochloric acid to chew up or eat up the protein, and this is what you live on.
Well, not necessarily. That, again, is a falsehood.
Yeah.
By the medical profession. The digestive acids, at best, are only about 10%, maybe in some people up to 20% of digestion. And those acids break down larger particles of food into liquid-like substances so that the bacteria can infiltrate and eat everything.
I see.
Otherwise, if you eat like a dog or a cat, swallow huge chunks of food, you will not digest it very well.
That's why a dog might have a very acid system because, as you know, dogs will just gulp it down, not even a chew.
So will cats.
Oh, yeah.
And they have 15 times the hydrochloric acid we do in the stomach. However, we secrete hydrochloric acid throughout the small intestine.
Even without your vagus nerve?
Well, yes, I secrete it throughout my intestinal tract, but not in my stomach.
Not in the stomach.
So I don't have that. So I make sure that all my meat and all of my food is in, like ground.
Really chewed up well.
Yes.
So would you ever recommend to one of your patients to take hydrochloric acid?
No, because hydrochloric acid, when it's a supplement, is not a complete hydrochloric acid. And it can prevent certain bacteria from digesting the food and it assimilating properly. So you may have poorly digested proteins.
Oh, that's not good.
As an effect of that.
Yeah. Well, I've been taking some hydrochloric acid for a long time. I guess I should stop.
Well, all you need to do is take some beet juice or eat some raw corn on the cob, and that provides the nutrients, the precursors for hydrochloric acid.
Corn on the cob?
Yeah, and beet juice.
Yeah. Oh, together?
No.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, either one.
Really? Corn on the cob?
Yep.
Because of the sugar in there?
Raw corn on the cob.
Oh, raw corn on the cob.
Yeah, it has to be raw corn on the cob.
Can you find any
it doesn't do the same.
Can you find any non-GMO corn on the cob these days? Is it available?
You have to look hard.
It's but beet juice. So you would just take a juice and beat it up, or juice it up, or in a Vitamix, and that helps the hydrochloric acid form.
Correct. Juicing is better. Of course, we don't digest cellulose, but 2% of it, and it'll just turn the digestive tract alkaline with vegetation. So if that happens, then you won't digest your dairy or meat products.
But then again, you're saying, though, that 80 to 90% of the food is digested by all the bacteria with the fermented foods, probiotics, all this stuff, and then the hydrochloric acid is only a small percentage. Is this evolutionary-wise where we would just take a big bite out of a lion or something?
Well, I don't know. Evolution is a tricky thing.
Sure. Because most of us haven't evolved yet, that's why.
I don't know, how much of that I believe of evolution in the way it is. I've seen, in laboratory experiments, flies instantly manifesting on rock and stuff like that, so without any egg present or around. So I don't know that we really evolved. And when they point to the Cro-Magnon and the Neanderthal-type skulls, we have people with, skulls like that all over the world, down in Mexico, South America, Africa. So this whole evolution thing is really questionable to me.
You think they just make it up as they go? Well, that was, every now and then I hear someone, when they talk about the raw meats, they'll argue, well, we didn't eat raw meat when we were in the jungles and stuff.
Well, Lucy did. The remains of Lucy, one of the oldest skeletons that we found, and she was pretty intact. Mm-hmm. It showed her pancreas was 2.5 times smaller than ours, so she was not a carb eater, she was a raw meat eater.
Oh, Lucy. I thought they were vegetarians, these guys.
No.
Oh, Lucy. Lucy's one of these, way back. Yeah.
Yes, 5 million years.
Yeah. What about the arguments that we hear very often? Well, we just didn't have that much meat, and we just had it on special occasions, and every day's special for Aajonus Vonderplanitz.
Well, in my experience, I had cancer of the blood, bone, stomach, and lymph, plus diabetes, psoriasis, and giant pectoris and bursitis.
Man, you were a mess.
Yes, and I was a very sickly child. I couldn't play sports. I learned to sew and cook, with my mother rather than being able to be with the guys and doing, really macho things. I was just that sickly. And to turn that around, I began drinking raw milk and raw carrot juice from a hospice volunteer who encouraged me to do it. And from there, I started getting well. I started introducing more and more raw foods. And then I went into a vegan state about 4 years into it and getting better. And then within 3 years, I had deteriorated back into blood and bone cancer again.
Wow.
So I realized that vegan, certainly wasn't for me. And in all of my experience, I've known about 2,300 vegetarians or vegans and vegetarians. I'll lump them into one. And only 8 of them did well into their latter lives. So it's not, not many people can do it. And those that did it, 7 of them were men and 1 was a female. And they were all athletic. They had very excessive hormones all the time. And for some reason, that seemed to be the only absolute criteria between those 8 and the 2,300.
So the active hormones and the overactive glands, you're suggesting keep the body going if they're not getting the nutrition that they get.
Correct. I mean, the woman was definitely an athlete, and then she broke down in her late 30s and her spine started to deteriorate. 2 of the men in their 70s also got spinal deterioration, and then 1 man in his 80s, early 80s, got spinal deterioration. And guess whose diet they went on to recover?
The primal. Yeah.
Yes, the primal, with the raw meats and raw dairy, and they recovered fairly quickly. The woman never went back to, her vegan diet.
We're with Aajonus Vonderplanitz. His website is WeWantToLive.com. This is OneRadioNetwork.com. We broadcast live every morning between 9 and 11 o'clock Central Time, and all of the podcasts, over 1,300, are available at no cost on OneRadioNetwork.com. A wide variety of health, wealth, and well-being. If you'd like to be on the show and speak with Aajonus, it is 888-663-6386, 888-663-6386. We'll put you on hold, pick it up live, and also emails, patrick@OneRadioNetwork.com. I know that when you travel around the country a lot, and you'll do a workshop on Saturday and then visit with patients, after that for a few days in your particular city, and I understand, if I remember from past shows, Aajonus, you do you look at their eyes, and you really do a whole body kind of scan by tell us about the work that you do, and then I want to ask you about some of the things that you experience. How do you tell what's going on with a person?
Well, I look at the irises.
The iris.
Yeah, a form of iridology.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say iridology, tomato.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't accept anything that people just feed me. I see too often. In fact, almost every case, somebody goes to college, they get drummed with a lot of misinformation and completely wrong information, and they are spit out of the universities with a degree, and then all of a sudden they're telling people what to do, and they don't even have any wisdom whatsoever about it, and especially with medical doctors. And it's a shame because they don't really know anything. And when they get their internship, it's an emergency ward, so everything is panic. And so they always go to the worst prognosis. So it's a sad thing. I use iridology because it's non-invasive. And I began studying it in, I guess it was about October '69.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't feel like I had any real control over it or control with it until it was about 92.
Wow.
So I'm not one of those, I have to see the evidence, empirical evidence. So the first time, even though I had studied it for many years, the first time that I acknowledged that there was something valid about it, I was with my girlfriend, and we were, kissing, and I looked in her eyes and saw this blood spot around where the uterus is supposed to have appeared. So I said, are you bleeding? And she said, yeah, I'm spotting. And I said, it isn't your period, though. And she said, no, it isn't. And I said, well, it looks like you've got a tear. If iridology is correct, you've got a tear in your uterus. And she said, yeah, I have an IUD there, and I can't find the string. I thought, so, this is the only time I would take anybody to a hospital, is a condition where something mechanical is damaging the system. So I took her to the hospital, Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles, and the IUD had punctured the uterine wall and was in the gut. So they wanted to go in there, and they said, well, we may need to cut out all the uterus and ovary. And I said, you do that, and I'll cut your life off. I said, you can always go in there later if there's an infection and it doesn't improve, but you don't take anything out whatsoever. You just go in there, you find the IUD, you remove it, you sew her up if necessary, but if no sutures are necessary, don't, and just leave her alone. And if something progresses to the worst, we can always, get your help later. Don't have to do any kind of emergency radical anything. I've had that done to me enough. So he did it. He just took out the IUD and put one suture in her, and that was it. So when I realized that, I said, okay, there's really something profound about iridology, and that was 1979.
I see. So then when you look at people in your travels, and you travel all over the world, and you begin to diagnose them, and you say, come...
Well, I'm not a licensed MD.
Right.
I'm a nutritionist, PhD in nutrition.
So I guess diagnosis is not a good word.
Oh.
Okay, so
my analysis.
Your analysis. What things in general, Aajonus, do you find with people who are on vegetarian or vegan diets? What do you see some deficiencies there that are more universal in nature?
Well, almost all of them have severe psychological problems, emotional problems, maybe I should say more emotional problems. They don't have a grip on it as well as other people, and it is theorized that it's a lack of B vitamins and, of course, proteins. And I try to do the complete protein thing with the correct beans and sprouted beans and germinated grains and nuts and all of that. And it didn't work. I was eating up to 7 pounds of protein a day and losing about less than a quarter of about an ounce a day. I was doing that. So I went from 155 pounds down to 98 pounds.
Doing the vegetarian food combining protein, yes. Complete protein thing.
Yes.
Frances Moore Lappé, remember her?
No, I don't.
Yeah, she wrote, she was the whole complete protein person back in the 60s and 70s.
Oh, yes, now I remember her.
Diet for a Small Planet?
That was a while back.
Yeah, well, we're old kids. Well, now we're young guys with old bodies. So then you're saying it's just more difficult in your experience for people to get all of these different amino acid stuff with a vegetarian diet. And so,
well, literally, with our anatomy, physiology, and biochemistry, we're not suited for that.
Huh.
We have mostly cutting teeth, and we have 4 canines. Of course, that is for tearing meats, not tearing fruits or vegetables. And a lot of vegetarians are misinformed about our anatomy, biochemistry, and physiology. They think that we have the teeth of an herbivore who eats vegetation, but we don't. They have every one of their teeth are molars. We have molars in the back of the mouth to crush meat before we swallow it, but we don't have to grind vegetation. We have all of our bacteria, which starts in the mouth, and we have more than cats and dogs in the mouth, so don't bite anybody. That's great.
I'm trying to cut down on that. I went to the dentist the other day, and and get my teeth cleaned, and they do these little swabs and put it under the microscope, and they show all these little bacteria in your mouth, and they're swimming around, spirochetes, and they said, well, these aren't the best ever, but you don't have any amoebas. But then I'm thinking, well, aren't these little guys running around my whole body? I mean, can you ever kill them all?
Well, you have to understand that the pharmaceutical industry runs the medical industry, and they make most of their money off of terrorism, so they need a bad guy. So they call the bacteria in the mouth the bad guy, but the bacteria never causes dental decay or any kind of problem. It is there to enter the food right away. And our bacteria is putrefacted. Now, that sounds like a bad word when it's applied to food. Putrefaction means the spoiling, bad decay of the food. However, that doesn't happen except with cooked food, putrefaction of that nature. But when we talk of putrefactive bacteria, we're talking about a bacteria that digests animal cells, dairy, meats, eggs, things like that. Not vegetarian, not herbivore or herbivorous dietary food. Leaf stalks and roots. Yeah. That is not our diet. Plus, when we get to the stomach, our hydrochloric acid, if you put that on vegetation, it doesn't break it down. What it does break down, if you take that hydrochloric acid, you put it on meat, eggs, or milk, or dairy, or raw dairy products, it will break them down. It dissolves them. And we have that all throughout the large and small intestines. All the bacteria is putrefacted. However, our body can alter itself and try to become a digester of vegetation, but it only amounts to 2 to 5%. That's not enough to feed and maintain a healthy body. And then the herbivore has 2.5 times more digestive tract than we do. They have 60,000 times the digestive enzymes to break down the cellulose molecule. So our food passes through in 24 hours. For them, it's 48 hours. They have 2 to 4 stomachs. They re-chew and regurgitate and swallow and regurgitate and re-chew and swallow up to 7 times to break down that cellulose. We just don't do that.
So what about the argument that the vegetarians make, well, our large intestines are too long to be carnivores like tigers and dogs? It's real short, only a few feet, but we have 12 feet of...
Well, yeah, we have about that. The dog and a cat's entire digestive tract is about 1/3 the length of ours, and the food goes through their system in 10 hours. For us, it's 24. However, we have the same amount of hydrochloric acid. It's just not concentrated in the stomach. They have to have it concentrated in the stomach because they don't chew their meats into smaller portions. Plus, they eat bones, and they need an intense amount of hydrochloric acid to do that. That's why it's greater in the stomach. However, we do, throughout the small intestines, secrete this hydrochloric acid when necessary.
What would be something that's going on in the human body where the hydrochloric acid is not produced in the large and small intestines?
Then you better make sure your food's patéed and liquid.
And why would that happen to a person, Aajonus, so where they have not enough hydrochloric acid in the intestines?
Well, they're not getting a proper diet. Also, usually that would have to be to the extent of not just cooking foods, but all of the additives in foods and the vaccines that create all damage. Now, about 70% of all current diseases are caused by vaccines.
70%?
Poisons and vaccines.
Wow. All right, stay right there. Aajonus Vonderplanitz, We Want to Live and the Recipe for Living Without Disease are a couple of books. WeWantToLive.com. And if you're on hold, we'll get to your calls. We have emails coming in. We have emails before the show. So we're going to have fun this morning. We have lots to do. Patrick Timpone, OneRadioNetwork.com. We broadcast live every morning between 9 and 11 o'clock Central Time. I'm with Al Carter, the world's foremost authority on rebound exercise. Al, you patented it, designed the Rebound Air. How can you possibly give a lifetime warranty on a piece of equipment?
Because we designed it to be used by the United States Air Force and showed us how we could make sure that the equipment would last a very, very long time.
So if a spring breaks or if a mat would rip or something with a leg, you replace it?
Yes, call us up and we'll replace it right away.
Lifetime?
Lifetime.
Order yourself a rebounder right now. Front page, look at the display for the rebounders on OneRadioNetwork.com. Go through PayPal, very secure. Don't have to be a PayPal member. Any credit card, ship it via UPS in 3 days or so. It's all yours. Right on the front page of OneRadioNetwork.com.
Could saving 15% of your money in gold coins really save you money on your car insurance? No. But it sure will give you a lot of peace of mind in uncertain times. Protecting your wealth is a great idea in an economy where money is being inflated by the rapid expansion of the money supply by central banks all over the world. Learn to protect your wealth. We can be reached directly to answer your questions at 1-800-878-2646 or visit us on the web at usgoldcoins.com.
And silver is down a whole buck today at $25.37, and gold at $1,522 an ounce. Consider, if you will, to get yourself one of these relaxed far infrared saunas. These are portable, but very, very well constructed, and you'll be quite surprised. Several of you have emailed over the last few months and questioning, how can I pay $900 for something that's a portable? And I know it's a little bit of a stretch to get your head around, but you can see the pictures and the rest of it on OneRadioNetwork.com. But they're very well constructed. And the machinery inside, it sets on the floor, and they have two different components that's putting out these ultraviolet lights. And a far infrared, not ultraviolet, but far infrared, and really work well. You'll sweat like the old, yeah, really cool. And you begin sweating probably 10 minutes or so, just full on. And you can set the controls, and they have two different controls if you want to have more heat or less heat. These are relaxed far infrared saunas, and you'll have yours for a total delivered price for $935 if you use the promo code OneRadio. That's OneRadio, OneRadio, into the promo code right on the front page of One Radio Network, and we'll take care of you with a relaxed far infrared sauna.
We are listener supported. One Radio Network. Talk to Patrick now, 888-663-6386, or email patrick@oneradionetwork.com.
Okay, it's about 24 minutes before the hour. Sing it, baby. Yeah. It's one of my favorite ones. Open Phone Friday tomorrow, and I think we're gonna call up to Minot, North Dakota tomorrow and see what's going on there. We did a show yesterday on the Missouri River and all the dams, and they're evacuating about 15,000 people up in North Dakota. You don't live in North Dakota, do you, Aajonus?
No, I live in Malibu, California.
Oh, well, then you don't have to evacuate.
And no, not yet.
Man, the weather's crazy, isn't it?
It is. Yes.
It's really, really nuts. Where are you off to next?
I go to Nevada tomorrow night.
Yeah. And you'll do a whole weekend there?
Well, actually, I'm taking gun training.
You're taking gun training?
Yes, at front site. Yeah, I've been attacked several times because of what I do. So I need to arm myself.
Ah, I see. Yeah.
So I'm getting a concealed carry weapon permit.
Yeah.
And I have to go through training for that. And I'd only have to go through 1 day training, but I want to be, I don't want to be a deadly force out there, but I want to stop somebody.
Yeah.
If they're attacking me, so I'm taking a 7-day course.
Oh, 7-day course?
Yes.
I want to become the revolution. I'm glad you're going to be on my side, man. Let's take this phone call. Hi, what's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
This is Francis from Edmonton.
Hi, Francis. Go ahead. You're on the air with Aajonus Vonderplanitz.
Hi, Francis.
Hi, Aajonus. I'm hoping you can provide a piece of my puzzle here for me this morning, maybe. Like, I'm in my early 60s, and I've been suffering from arthritis all my life. The official diagnosis is ganglionosis spondylitis.
Yes.
Which has left me a bit crippled, right?
Yes.
I eat very good food, organic as much as possible. I eat meat, only from animals that I personally met. And my condition, I'm treating it strictly right now with herbs. I was on Celebrex. So, but I've been off Celebrex since last October, and so far so good. But the pain is really starting to come back again. And I'm just wondering if you can offer me anything with my diet that might help.
Did you hear what I said about Crohn's earlier?
Yes, I did. I had Crohn's disease.
85% of Crohn's comes from, 85% of arthritis comes from Crohn's. Because the body's...
but I had arthritis before I got the Crohn's.
Well, maybe you think you did. You were diagnosed with Crohn's.
Yes, I was.
Fact. However, your leaky gut may have gone on for far longer. It could have been when you were born. You didn't produce mucus properly from your intestines, so food was going to your joints at a very, very early age. So what that does is starts breaking down the joints. Now, those bacteria in there that are said, these are bad arthritic bacteria, rheumatoid arthritis type bacteria, those bacteria are there to digest that food.
Right.
Of course, they're going to digest the cartilage along with it, little by little. But the body sends it to that cartilage because that cartilage is pretty resilient. Not as resilient as our stomach lining. Our stomach lining produces hydrochloric acid and can dissolve bone and hair, but it doesn't dissolve the stomach lining itself. So that's the most resilient tissue in the body. The second most resilient tissue is the cartilage.
Okay.
That's why the body sends the food there. That's probably why, 85% for sure, that is why you got arthritis and rheumatism. Now, I have a woman in Chicago who came to me 3 years ago in a wheelchair, left knee about 3 times its normal size. She had a hardball calcification. They always call it calcification, but it's mineralization because it's many minerals, not just calcium. Hardball formation at her left elbow, and her fingers and hands, everything was pretty contorted. So I put her on the diet 3 years ago, unable to handle anything but maybe a fork or a spoon to get it to her mouth slowly and not steadily. Now, I just saw her 2 weeks ago, and she's walking 7 minutes. She went back to playing cards with her friends, after 6 years of not playing cards. And so she's back in shape.
And this was on the primal diet?
Correct.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. Now, there's another factor involved here. The body has to be heated. Needs to heat about 105 to 108 degrees in water.
Right, okay.
And that causes the body to melt acids, fats, trans fatty acids, which are hydrogenated vegetable oils, plastic fats.
Yes.
That harden in the system. The body cannot make them liquid at the body's temperature, even 101 degrees.
I see.
Will not melt those to move them out of the system.
Yes.
And when the lymphatic system is endowed with the ability to clean everything in the body, however, the waxy plastic fats, it cannot, because we don't get the body hot enough.
Yeah.
So I have her, and I emphasized in the last year, because she was able to stand last year, but not walk.
Yes.
Without a walker. Now she walks 7 minutes without a walker because I insisted her husband, he's a pretty big, strong guy. He's in his 60s like she is.
Right.
And, I said, you've got to get her in the bath, even if you have to get an A-frame.
I see.
Hot tub, you put her in the hot tub, which is a steady temperature, which is better.
Right. Okay.
So
I
said,
3
days a week,
90 minutes.
Yes,
and, rest of the time 40, 45 minutes a day.
Right.
And do this every day. So they did, and the results were, she has a life again.
My God.
Right.
So this hot water...
All of her card-playing friends told her 3 years ago when she went on this diet, oh, you're going to get brain flukes, you're going to die, this thing's going to kill you. Well, they've certainly changed their minds about it now.
And the hot water... in the baths up to what temperature did you say?
108. I mean, I know people that have gone 110 degrees.
And this really just melts this stuff.
Yes, it does.
I'll be done.
It takes time. It's like consider a cold stick of butter in a 2-cup jelly jar, glass jelly jar.
Right.
You've got a cold stick of butter. We have an air conditioning system, of course, as part of our system, so I count that as like a cold stick of butter. And you've got, let's say, 108 degrees on the outside of that glass. You've got to make the airspace become warm between the glass and the butter. That takes about 40 minutes before the butter will be warm enough to even start barely melting. That's why I say if you have a severely congested lymphatic system, you need to stay in 90 minutes at a time. Now, a lot of people have a difficulty staying in because the brain hates to get hot. So they can just take one of those cold packs and put it on top of their head with a towel between their head and that cold pack and leave it on there until the brain says, oh, wait a minute, I want to stay in this hot water. And then there's no trouble in staying in that long. But the body loves the warmth, the brain does not.
Yeah, because my blood work, I don't have any rheumatoid factor in my blood, but yet I've got fused joints, right?
Yeah, well, the fused joints comes from eating away the cartilage. And then
that's
cartilage
right.
trying to mend, and they mend into each other.
Yeah, because I once, not too long ago, I went to some hot springs here in the Rocky Mountains. And I felt after I spent considerable time in the spring, like I felt I could almost dance afterwards.
I'll be done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is so important to healing quickly. Now, the woman who I was just talking about could have spent 12, 13 years just on the diet, reversing that condition. But she did it in, 3 years because she was taking the baths, especially in the last year. And she removed that hardball size of mineralization on her left elbow in 1 year by taking those baths.
Really? So do you believe that hot, if I can get into a hot tub, which is almost impossible...
Oh, you mean just
think
physically?
That might help?
It would tremendously. If you can get, hospitals have an A-frame to lift people.
Yes.
You can. They have ones that are mobile where you just, hit a button.
Okay.
And get one of those to take you in and out of the bathtub. You're set.
Okay. And do you think, is it possible that I may be able to unlock my I've got my left hip is completely locked and my right one's probably on its way. Right?
My goodness.
Yes, I've seen it happen several times.
Oh, nice.
In conjunction with the diet and the hot baths. Without the nutrients, your body isn't going to be able to rebuild that cartilage.
Right. Well, as I said, I eat very good food. I don't eat any processed foods whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay, Francis.
Well, I'm talking about any cooked food.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He wants you to eat more raw food and try that.
Okay, I'll try that.
All right, Francis, thanks for the call. Good job. So...
Patrick, I wanted to finish that one. You asked about, the colon.
Yeah.
Why ours is so much longer.
Yeah.
Well, we have big garbage brains. Obviously, we're not very smart because we kill everybody and everything on the planet with, not the intention of recycling, but gaining money that we can't take with us anyway.
Yeah, it's not too bright, is it?
No. But anyway, the bacteria in the colon break down the proteins and fats into the finite molecules to feed the brain and the nervous system. People who have depression have very poor bacteria in their colon. And E. coli is the predominant bacteria that does that.
E. coli, that's the one that's the new terrorist.
No, well, they've been blaming E. coli for a long time.
Yeah.
But they've made this, E. coli 157H7, which in my laboratory experiments show that it's man-made. It's not natural.
Yeah. We just saw a big story on naturalnews.com about the same thing, and it's hard to imagine the way this thing evolved without being tampered with.
What do you mean without being...
In other words, in the lab somewhere, it's hard to imagine that it became so resistant to all of these different things naturally.
Well, it's not even resistant to anything. It is just a monster. It's a Frankenstein. If you put a fractionating enzyme on that, it will splice in two instead of fractionating into 5 parts. That means it was spliced and man-made. Also, genetic properties show an alteration. So it's completely man-made. And I've never found in E. coli, even in the fields, the tomato fields and the spinach fields here in California. And I got onto those properties at night, even though they were guarded, and took many samples. Not one showed any kind of this 157E7 E. coli that they talk about. And the only place that I've been able to find it and study it was in a university. And that was given to them by the CDC and the FDA.
So you're saying that all these different E. coli, quote, outbreaks, unquote, that we hear over every now and then, a couple times a year, this is all fake stuff?
Yes. Well, what's the object here? They tried to outlaw manure last year as a fertilizer because of all the E. coli. Look at what's behind it. Monsanto and Dow and all these Gulf of Western, these chemical companies, they want you to use their chemical fertilizers. So if they can get you to believe, even though it is a complete fallacy and a fraud, that microbes cause disease, and E. coli that is in all feces, not the 157H7, they're just using that as their leverage, their 9/11 Patriot bullcrap, campaign, just like the Nazis used the Reichstag, to take all the people's rights away. So if they get you to believe that fecal matter will cause epidemics and mass disease, then they will be able to outlaw without much resistance. Of course, they'll always have resistance for me. Without resistance, they will outlaw manure. So what is left to fertilize lands? Chemical fertilizers. And that's the whole plot. Yeah, conspiracy theories, yes, and it's true.
Well, a lot of folks feel it's really an attack on the whole raw food idea as well. Well, it
is, because if we are standing out there as evidence of incredible health, and they're talking about disease, being created by this bacteria, it's a non sequitur.
Yeah. Here's an email from Mike in Marion, Alabama. I notice that many animals, dogs, cats, chickens, goats, seem to be avid consumers of water. My dogs have been fed nothing but raw animal parts since birth, and have received no medications. At various times I see them drinking large amounts of water. You seem to discourage the consumption of water for humans. Can you comment on what I observe in animals?
Well, there are very few animals that sit out in the wild. If you've got a domesticated animal, of course, you've isolated them on properties and lands where they get minimal water. You're feeding the animals a lot of dried grasses, and of course they're going to need more water. If they're getting fresh grasses, they don't need much water. Or in the winter, even though they're eating the dry grasses, they don't need much water. There's only 3 animals basically that eat a lot of water, and that's birds because they eat so much dried grain, and the elephant and the camel. Elephant can drink 55 gallons at a time and go 6 months without drinking water, but they have a pouch for that. The camel, 25 gallons, and can go up to 6-7 weeks. Some have even gone as long as 3 months without drinking water and live on that 25 gallons. But humans, if they will eat in other animals, if they eat,
fresh food that is rich with water. Even meat is 55% water minimum. That's even if it's a little dried. Almost 70% water if it's fresh. And there's no dehydration involved. That means time spent where, the fluids out of the meat dissipate.
And there's those that argue that kind of water from vegetables, meat, and milk is really a water that's somewhat structured by God or whatever nature that can get into the cells. And, of course...
Well, it's the only water that can. It's the only water that's properly ionically bound. So they make a electrical charge with these sport drinks like Gatorade, and that's not a natural electrical ionic bond. And there's no other nutrients involved in it. But when the human body does it, and any animal body does it with a raw whole food, all of the water is absorbable and utilizable, and doesn't, it's full of other nutrients. It's full of the proteins, the vitamins, all vitamins, and every other nutrient on the planet. So when the water is carried to the cells, it's rich with nutrients. Just plain water is not. It's devoid of any nutrient, and the minerals that are available in it are rock, and we don't eat rock. Plants eat rock.
So what do you do to your water, the water that you drink?
I don't drink water.
You don't drink water?
Yeah, so, let's say in the last 2 months I've had probably 16 ounces.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I may every 2 weeks or so have a half a cup or a whole cup, maybe once a month. If I'm in the tropics, I may have up to, a cup a week. And that's because the body still has some toxins in it that need the soluble factor that water is. Water is a solvent. It dissolves rock in the ground so plants can eat. Well, in the human body, especially as polluted as we are, we do need some solvents. So most people need about a half a cup of water a day, but they need rich, nutrient-bound water primarily to strengthen and feed the system. And that, of course, in raw foods, you have all of that water available. Milk is 86% water. Meats are 55 to 70% water. Fruits are 90 to 93% water. So there's water in absolutely everything, richly.
But if one were eating a mainly cooked diet, would they need more water?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
that fractionates it. However, even though they eat that other water, it will never be a nutrient-bound water that raw food carries.
Yeah, just not structured. James wants to know why raw meat is better than cooked meat. Very basic question. Great question.
Well, when you cook anything, you begin destroying, depending upon the temperature, you begin destroying nutrients. That's in any food, not just meat. But we digest meat and handle meat the best in my experiments with humans, of course, and dogs and cats. When you cook anything above 105 degrees or meat above 105 degrees, you break down the enzymatic activity. Now, a lot of people think enzymes are alive. They are not alive, no more than virus is alive. They are protein structures to help tear down, build up, or reassemble nutrients. And they can be used in many ways, but they are not alive. But those are altered and cauterized at the beginning about 105 degrees. For some nutrients, it's even lower. Like for natural phosphorus, the cauterization process begins at 98 degrees. And by the time it hits 110, phosphorus is completely altered. That is when they go to check and see if something's been so-called properly pasteurized, they look to the phosphorus to identify whether the temperature has reached at least 141 degrees. Other factors like vitamins will be destroyed at about 122 degrees. 126 absolutely altered and not able to be utilized properly. And then the fats, they break down into lipid peroxides. The proteins break down into heterocyclic amines, and any kind of carbohydrates will be broken down into acrylamides. And those are just 3 of the toxins that are formed from cooking foods. And you've got 32 that have been identified from cooking foods. So the higher the temperature, the greater the byproduct toxins that are formed. And the 3 that I just named are all labeled as carcinogens.
In general, do we need fats to digest protein?
Yes, absolutely.
So if you were going to do meat, then maybe some butter with that.
Correct. I always suggest that people have butter with meats.
Mm-hmm. Boy, in more and more places now, you can find real good raw grass-fed unsalted butter. If you look around, it's out there.
Absolutely,
it's out there. Here is an email from Steve. Good morning, Patrick. I was diagnosed by my chiropractor with significant calcium retention in my hip, neck, back, and I have a stone in my bladder. What would you do to correct my body's calcium retention and reverse problems in my back, hip, and neck?
Well, the person, what's his name?
Steve.
Steve obviously has a lot of demineralization of the body. The proper mineralizations, has lots of cauterized minerals throughout his system from cooking foods. Now, everybody doesn't have the same problems. Each body will get toxic in a different way from the same toxic substances. It depends upon the health of the individual. Steve just collects his minerals. He's not able to discharge his cauterized minerals, so they collect. They collect as stones and then grow into crystals in the bladder, could be urinary or gallbladder, and in the kidneys. It could even happen in the liver, where these stones, and they're called stones because they're a collection of cauterized minerals, and they collect. To help break those down, it takes a very strict diet, not an easy diet, but I have the remedies for that in my book, which are, like beet juice, raw apple cider vinegar, pineapple. There are different remedies in my book, We Want to Live, on how to get rid of stones and mineralizations in the body.
Are you an advocate of doing some of these gallbladder liver flushes with the olive oil?
No, because they're very radical. They cause a massive amount of demineralization throughout the body, not just in the liver. I think it's always better to do things nurturingly throughout the system and let a body do it more gradually.
Mm-hmm. We're with Aajonus Vonderplanitz, and he a couple of books, We Want to Live, and the recipe for living without disease, WeWantToLive.com. And we're only halfway there, and we're having a good time. It's 1 minute after 10 o'clock Central Time, OneRadioNetwork.com. We broadcast live every morning between 9 and 11 Central Time. Open phone Friday. And next week, Daniel Vitalis will be here next Tuesday. Here's health motivator Daniel Vitalis and the benefits of using a far infrared sauna.
Sweating is absolutely going to be one of the most critical things discerning people take on so that they can not only stay healthy, but actually so we can continue to have children that are healthy. We're going to need to sweat. People have sweat all through history. Before the world was toxic, they used that for their health. Now that it's toxic, it's one of the only ways we're going to cleanse our body fat. Our body fat is where we store so much of the environmental pollution. Not just the radioactive elements. We're talking about PCBs. We're talking about plastics. We're talking about a host of pesticides and herbicides. We're talking about heavy metals. Getting this stuff out of our bodies, we're going to need to sweat it out.
And a fast, easy, and affordable way to sweat is with a portable, relax, far-infrared sauna. See all the information. Order with promo code ONERADIO on OneRadioNetwork.com, a relaxed, portable, far-infrared sauna on OneRadioNetwork.com. I'm with Al Carter. He's the world's foremost authority of rebound exercise. Al, one of my favorite things about rebounding for the last 15 years is I do it. I mean, it's not like something I think about. I do it because it's right there, right on my porch, and I just do it.
That's right.
Yeah, isn't that a wonderful thing? And I heard you say that you can do it whenever you're in the mood, not in the mood, or in the nude.
Yes, and anytime you want to rebound, if it's in your own private home, you can exercise anytime you want to, recognizing you're going to build balance, coordination, rhythm, timing, dexterity, and kinesthetic awareness while building muscle bulk and strength.
How about the ladies listening and building up, like firming the bust line and firming the old buttocks? Does it work for that?
Yes, it will help all those things, but one of the other things it'll do is it'll stimulate or strengthen the sphincter muscles.
Really
those ladies
important.
who know what a sphincter muscle is knows what we're talking about.
Really important. Order yourself a rebounder right now. Front page, look at the display for the rebounders on oneradionetwork.com. Go through PayPal, very secure. Don't have to be a PayPal member. Any credit card, ship it via UPS in 3 days or so. It's all yours. Right on the front page of oneradionetwork.com.
Know the Source on One Radio Network.
Talk to Patrick now, 888-663-6386, or email patrick@oneradionetwork.com.
Having a fun time with Aajonus Vonderplanitz. We want to live.com. It's a little bit after 10 Central Time. 888-663-6386. Aajonus, do we face some kind of challenges, some body types, some people with just with not having any carbs, some kind of ketosis thing goes on?
Well, you're going to have to make that a little bit more clear what you're asking.
In other words, I've read about and heard about ideas if you just do a lot of animal foods, a lot of protein without any kind of complex carbohydrates, that a ketosis, ketogenic kind of a thing can happen, and it's not good.
Well, I haven't found that that's necessarily so.
Uh-huh.
And toxins of any sort will cause a breakdown of tissue, which causes ketones. Ketones are the breaking down of proteins in the body. So when these ketones form, a lot of the medical profession or pharmaceutical profession will point at the kidneys and say, see, they're eating too much protein. They need to cut down on protein because they're having cellular destruction. And it's like, it's very academic and rather stupid, and they're trained to be stupid. I'm sorry I have to be that direct about it, but it is stupidity. When you say, "Oh, we have got a breakdown of proteins in the body, that's bad, so we stop eating protein." Most ridiculous thing in the world. If you've got a broken down house that's built with bricks, you don't stop rebuilding the thing with bricks because you've got broken bricks. It's an absurd concept. So you need to replace those with good, sound proteins. High ketone blood test will just indicate that somebody's breaking down some toxic cells in the body, and therefore that protein comes from that source, not a healthy source. The same with cholesterols. They finally, 20 years ago said, oh, that's right, yeah, we just don't have bad cholesterol. We have cholesterols which are so-called bad cholesterols, but those are the waste cholesterols, the ones that the body's getting rid of. So they're not a problem in the first place. The same with these ketones. And whether they're liver ketones, kidney ketones, no matter what it is, those are the cells that have been damaged, that are being broken down to be eliminated from the body. That's a good thing. And you certainly don't want to stop eating proteins like raw meat, because you will not rebuild and heal. You will not get stronger along with the detoxification.
Interesting. From Josh, can you ask Aajonus about electromagnetic fields? How can we protect ourselves from them, and how the primal diet might help protect from EMFs?
Well, you need to get a tri-field meter that will register electromagnetic fields, electrical fields, and radiation fields, like from a cell phone, not radiation from
radiation fallout. And you put those, turn the meter on and see how far away from your computer or a light or a machine of any kind, especially blenders. Blenders produce the highest, one of the highest, and your electric blankets also produce one of the highest EMF fields. You just stay away from them. 3 milligauss alters the molecular structure of cells, and not favorably so. So that is a problem. You just have to stay away. Now, in my car, I have a Prius hybrid, so it's a high electrical field around my right leg. So what I did was I created a outer magnetic field that would draw any that would be excessively accumulating in my legs. I built a pillow, a magnetic pillow, and I took 1-inch magnets, circular magnets, and I put them in 3 concentric circles and glued them onto a lattice material. And I alternated the polarity of the magnets to north-south, north-south, all the way around in those circles.
How do you do?
And I put 2 feather pillows, thin feather pillows, on either side of that, and then put that in its own pillowcase. And the pillow's probably about 16 inches by 16, maybe 18 inches by 18, and I sit on that. Now, when I first got the car, if I drove like to San Diego, it would take 2.5 hours. The back of my thigh, right thigh that handled the foot pedal, would get very painful, sore from the EMF field. When I built that pillow, then I had no problem.
Isn't that interesting? I have a Prius as well, and boy, I'd love to see how you've done that sometime. If you ever could put that on the web, I'd like to play with that idea.
I've got so many things.
I know you guys. You know what I do too? I have a.
Sharon comes to my workshop in Cincinnati. I'll draw you a little map.
Oh, you can show me how to do. I have a golden retriever that I take everywhere with the Prius, and I put the meter on there, and I laid some really thick, kind of aluminum stuff that I got at Home Depot underneath the blanket on the back seat, which protects her from those EMFs from the battery. So. Yeah.
Well, that battery is not that bad.
It's not that bad, but...
In the Honda, it's atrocious. The passengers are sitting on that battery back there. It's about 75 milligauss or higher. In the Prius, it's very small back there. The passenger, the front seat passenger and the driver are getting most of it.
Yeah. Well, have you ever seen, Aajonus, any contraptions, necklaces, or things like that you can wear that protects? Have you ever seen anything work?
I've experimented with those since 1990.
Yeah.
And I only found the Bio Shield reduced in EMF field by 0.5 milligauss, which is really nothing when you're talking about 35 to 75 milligauss.
Yeah.
But I still will put one on my cell phone.
Yeah, with those little buttons on the other side.
My cell phone never gets near my head.
Yeah.
I put it in speakerphone, and I do not hold it while it's in transmission.
Have you looked into the idea of these grounding pads being grounded to protect?
Like I said, I don't agree with those. That's why I built my own magnetic pillow, and I know that works. I haven't found those others to work. Now, some people say it does affect them, but it didn't affect me.
Here's an email from Allie. Can a female do well on a diet with non-flesh animal foods, still eating butter, raw eggs, cod liver oil? I tried fresh foods for a year, raw mainly, and it constipated me. Any ideas for that?
Well, it's not a true constipation. A true constipation is when you have a block in the intestines. Most people, when they get on to a healthy diet, especially if they've altered from a vegan or vegetarian diet, are nutrient-starved. So all of a sudden the body gets some incredible nutrients and is trying to absorb every bit of it. And therefore it will be very dry. Also, the E. coli has been starved, and when it gets the fats,
in the later stages of digestion. The preferable ones, the more fresh ones, they never see or get. And they will just hold on to the fecal matter, trying to break everything down and digest it. That's not true constipation. However, it is uncomfortable. And what I tell people to do there is take 3 tablespoons each of butter, coconut cream, and dairy cream, and just a 1/4 teaspoon of honey, unheated honey, and they mix that together in like a 4-ounce jelly jar. They do this right before they go to bed at night. They immerse it with a lid on it, of course, in a bowl of hot water, hot enough to make the hand uncomfortable after 5 seconds, but not burn it. And then that'll bring it up to about body temperature in about 3 to 4 minutes, and then take a bulb syringe and insert that as a suppository.
Oh.
Not to be moved, and roll your belly, get down on your, it's supposed to be on your knees anyway, and then put your face down on the bed or floor, wherever you're doing it, roll your stomach like a belly dancer, and get it to move up the descending colon. Then lie on your right side, lift your left leg, and roll your stomach like a belly dancer again, and get it to move across the transverse colon and down into the ascending colon. And then you will feed the E. coli directly some very fresh fats so they won't hold on to that fecal matter. Now, some people, if they've been starving, they're very thin, and they've been on a vegan diet or a vegetarian diet for a very long time, then they may need to do that every 2 to 3 days. Other people will only need to do it once a week or once a month.
So you're actually feeding the bugs?
You're actually, those bugs are what digest everything.
Right. So you have butter, coconut cream, what else?
And dairy cream.
And you kind of mix it all together and get it liquid by just warming it ever so gently, and then...
Well, you need to get a body temperature so you don't evacuate it. Because if you put something cold in your rectum, your body's will want to flush it out.
Yeah. And so you put that right up your bum, huh?
Yep.
And boy, just feed those guys.
Directly, yeah. And it gets rid of depression. It does a lot of good things.
Yeah. So we're just this mass Aajonus of bacteria all over the place.
150 bacterial genes to every 1 human gene. So we are bacteria.
So we are bacteria. Yep. And so most of the feces and bowel movements, most of that is bacteria?
Correct.
So is it ever called for, in your opinion, to kill some of these with maybe colloidal silver or this or that?
Colloidal silver is a metal poisoning. Not a good idea. So better than antibiotics. In fact, it can be worse than antibiotics.
You never want to try to kill anything.
Well, you're killing yourself. You're killing your digestive processes. Just remember that all functions of the body, no matter what they are done by bacteria. Bacteria is everything.
Even cancer cells. So let's ask this question, because this leads right in from Beverly. When you talk to Aajonus on Thursday, please ask him to explain why cancer forms, our cells form cancer cells and assemble them into tumors to save our lives, to get us well. Is that right? And also,
that is correct.
So give us your idea. We just had a very elegant description of that from Andreas Moritz, who I think he'd really like this. Well, I think he's on the same track as you. What is your understanding of what's going on with these things we call...
Well, having had 4 forms of cancer, I pretty much know what cancer is, and I've addressed it, probably 1,500 people in the last 30 years, reversing 95% of it. What cancer is the body's collection of dead cells. Mm-hmm. That begins because the body does not have what it takes or can't do it to break down dead cells, to dissolve them, the lymphatic system is responsible for that, is supposed to dissolve those dead cells, put it in the connective tissue to be perspired out of the body. So if the lymphatic system gets jammed, especially with trans fatty acids, that's plastic fats, hydrogenated vegetable oils that crystallize in the body, they jam the system.
They jam it up.
Right. And then also, if your liver is not producing the proper forms of bile, then what the lymphatic system uses, fats, to dissolve these dead cells will not be available. So there are several reasons how you can get cancer. And it's just a collection of dead cells. Now, in a benign tumor, the dead cells will collect, but there's no veins into it, there's no arteries, there's no capillary circulation into a benign tumor. So if your body wants to decompose the benign tumor, it could take 30, 40 years or not at all, and you'll be living with a benign tumor. If you have a cancerous tumor, it's preferable because the cancer cell is a very rare cell. It exists in the area of about 50 to even 200, 150 to 200 dead cells. It's an aesthete. It can live on its own as a hermit. You do have circulation into a cancerous tumor because the cancer cells have to be fed to keep alive. However, when your body gets healthy enough and it plans on it, when you have a cancerous tumor, the body will, the cancer cells will die, and they let off a serum. And that serum is a solvent which can instantly, in 3 to 5 days even, dissolve a tumor and disappear. But your body has to be well enough to handle the byproducts of that dissolved tissue, which will be highly toxic.
So
concentrate, they can melt the skin away.
So the challenge is most people, is it fair to say, most people dealing with this whole paradigm of a tumor, they're not strong enough or well enough with the right nutrition, so they have to deal with it, or they end up dealing with it in a whole juxtaposition way.
Right. Well, not only that, they may have a breakdown in the lymphatic system or breakdown in the liver,
Sure.
or a breakdown in both.
So it's a very delicate thing to understand. So this
When
idea...
anybody gets into a cancer state, they're in a bad situation systemically.
Sure. So this lymph system and the sweating, these are two key things here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I find that the water soaking is much better than any kind of dry heat or steam heat, for preferable to saunas and steam baths, because the temperatures are anywhere from 140 to 212 degrees in those forms, and they can damage the mucous membranes, and the lungs are part of that, and the sinuses with repeated use. And also it'll destroy vitamins in your own tissue and enzymes in your own tissue in your skin. So when you keep it below, 108 degrees, 110 degrees, let's say maximum, you don't destroy those properties.
Yeah. That's why we like the far infrared. I think it's around 103 to 105, and plus your head is out of the thing.
But the problem with that is that you've got an airspace of 1 foot, and your body can cool it. So you're really not going to get that hot.
You mean the internal body temperature?
Correct, yes. And you need to get it up to about 102 degrees within an inch and a half under the skin, inch to an inch and a half, to get up to the lymph glands to affect them.
They claim they get an internal body temperature of 105, but that's a claim.
Yeah, I've never seen it, and when I've utilized those, they don't work as well as the direct contact of water. So when you're in a bath, you can be very still, and the water doesn't seem that warm. Then you move a fraction of an inch, and all of a sudden the water heats you quickly.
So do you actually...
In an airspace, you've got a foot a space between the air's hottest point and the body. So your body can cool that space. So if you're going to be in an infrared sauna, you have to keep the body moving.
Keep it moving. That's interesting.
In a water environment, you do not.
Interesting. Here is from Chris from Florida. What are Aajonus' thoughts on what meat does to the liver? From what I've heard from Aajonus, his thoughts are opposed to Andreas Moritz, who's a vegetarian advocate. Yeah, so obviously you don't believe that liver or meat has any detrimental effects to the liver, because your liver is fine, thank you.
Well, my liver, I ate a poison mushroom in 1981 by accident, a death cap, and it destroyed 90% of my liver. And I was only eating raw meat once a day, 3 days a week. So I was only having 3 meat meals weekly. And my progression through that poison mushroom and the damaged liver was very slow for a year and a half. And then I just said, okay, I've got to do something different. It's too slow. And I began eating raw meat daily, twice daily, and the amount of change was tremendous. My liver was rebuilt in 3 years.
Here's an email from Kevin. I'm so upset I missed you in South Florida. I hope you come back soon. My question is, can you share your thoughts on the so-called zero-carb craze? Is this healthy for long periods of time, as some claim to be doing and being in good health?
Well, you can't be completely carb
carb-free.
Carb-free, yeah, there's another word that I wanted. It was a little bit more dramatic, but I couldn't find it. Anyway, you can't be carb-free. Even meats have carbs in them. So there's not going to be any carb-free environment in the human body and the foods that we can eat. Even milk has quite a bit of carbs. Everything has carbs in it. I do not like, though, because I've seen demineralization from eating a lot of sweet fruits and too much vegetable juices. But it's more the over-alkalinization than it is the carbs. We have a large pancreas, 2.5 times the size that we need to handle a lot of carbs. However, carbs, I found, cause high over-emotionality. And that is detrimental to a peaceful, happy lifestyle.
Kind of like going crazy after a pizza?
Yes.
Kind of like that. Well, what is the key to keeping the blood sugar balanced? Is there something kind of systemically inferior going on with the pancreas, Aajonus, in that situation?
Not necessarily. The body, you have to look at how the body handles carbs. When it has carbs, carbs are usually used in the citric acid cycle. That is the cycle of producing energy. Now, normally, the highest produced energy is from fat. 80% fat, 15% protein in the form of pyruvate, which is a protein sugar, and then either vitamin C or some high carbohydrate. So 20% of that cycle is really a form of carbohydrate. So we need a certain amount to be able to utilize fat as energy, and fat gives us 2.5 times more energy than a carb or protein when they're made into an acetate, which is a fat. And it's a complicated process. So what I tell people to do, if they're eating fruit, always eat a fat with it.
Food and fat.
Yes, that'll slow the carb reaction down, and it will help utilize that fat as an energy source.
So coconut cream or coconut butter, that's nice with fruit?
Yes, and that's a good detoxifying one, and your body can make a lot of alcohols from the carbs, which are cleansing, help dissolve dead cells, so you can help reverse cancer. But all of that needs to be, finitely tuned if you want to get well fast.
If someone has a tendency to be low blood sugar or high or kind of erratic, what's going on in the body? I mean, what is it? What would be the systemic cause of that?
If they have high carbohydrates, or they're having high and low blood sugar?
Or just blood sugar issues in general, where they really have to watch their blood sugar. If they don't eat, then the blood sugar gets low, or if they eat too much.
That's usually because they're eating processed sugars. If they've been a vegetarian or a vegan a long time, even eating fruit will cause that reaction very rapidly. I remember when I was a fruitarian, it made my diabetes, crazy. I would stand up, from a sitting position or lying down position, and I would get dizzy.
Yeah.
And pass out, even black out.
It took me back to my diabetic days.
You were a fruitarian, were you?
Yes, I was a fruitarian for almost 6 years.
Did you feel fruity when you did that?
Oh, yes. I was very unstable and very overly emotional. I was a diehard evangelic, vegan.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I would say that killing is bad and, that can't be killing. Of course, I wasn't taking into account that when I rip the leaf off of a plant that I'm killing it, too, and I'm dismembering it.
Well, you just didn't hear that mustard green scream when you did that.
That's right. And that doesn't mean it wasn't alive, but if you look at the Baxter experiments of the early 70s, when he hooked the electrodes of a polygraph machine to plants, the plants had memory, they had intelligence, they had emotion, they had everything. It's just that we're not sensitive enough to realize it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting how more and more the vegans, vegetarians are becoming more broad-minded. I spent Saturday with David Wolf, one of the foremost vegans right in the world, and he's so opened up over the years about being dogmatic against meat and animal foods. It's so different from what he was 10 years ago.
Well, yeah, when I met him 10 years ago, I said, David, you don't have the system of those 8 that I saw were able to do it, and you're going to hit the wall in 7 years, and he did.
Here's an email from Mark in Guam. My question for Aajonus is, does he feel it's beneficial to take a day off or 2 from eating meats, fats, and cleanse with green juices?
Well, I never think that that's a good idea as a practice and a principle, because the body is an acidic system. It needs the acids to digest foods. A day or 2 without proteins means that your body's going to eat itself, and it will eat the good and the bad cells, so you'll be remaking toxicity into the system. If you're eating good organic meats and dairy, you're not going to be, the body won't have to rely upon eating toxicity of itself to maintain itself. So I don't suggest fasting or even juice feasting as a viable thing. I do suggest sometimes eating very small amounts, like a golf ball size of meat, 4 or 5 times a day, and reducing the consumption of everything to a very small amount, just to give the body a break.
Uh-huh.
However, I've resolved that by just feeding people a lot of eggs, because eggs digest in 27 minutes. It gives using 5 inches of the digestive tract to absorb, to complete the digestion and absorption of eggs. So basically, the digestive tract gets an entire vacation.
Why is it when...
but yet concentrated nutrients.
Yeah. I've experimented with raw eggs and adding different things to it, and I seem to have a difficult time of digesting it. What is that telling you about your host's digestive system if the raw eggs only work when I do them alone?
Well, that's normal.
Is that normal?
Yeah, it's normal.
Well, I'm glad I'm normal. I just thought I was crazy.
That's normal.
Oh, good.
People who are very fortunate, who can digest eggs mixed with anything, are extremely fortunate.
Oh, I see. It's more normal just to be able to do the eggs.
I was 20 years on this diet before I could make a milkshake without a stomachache.
I'll be darned. Well, I don't feel so badly then. I thought there was...
Anyway, the eggs are very easily digestible when they're alone.
Yeah.
When you mix them with milk is the next easiest thing to digest, but it still takes 6 to 10 hours as opposed to 27 minutes.
Yeah, I mixed them with raw cream the other day, 4 or 5 eggs.
Ooh.
And I felt like I had a brick in my stomach all day.
Yes.
All day.
That'll be very difficult. Cream is very difficult to digest.
Oh, is it?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. So be careful.
Butter is the easiest.
What is?
So if you've got, a poor digestive tract, or your liver isn't making the 60 varieties of bile to make the 60 varieties of cholesterol that do everything for us, or that we use to do everything in the body, that's lubrication, protection, dissolving, and giving us energy, all of those cholesterols. You've got a problem when you have the cream. The cream takes all 60 varieties of bile, so your liver has to be in very good shape to do that.
60 varieties of bile, my goodness.
Which makes 60 varieties of cholesterol.
Yeah. Well, you could just take a statin drug and get rid of all that cholesterol.
And without the cholesterol, you will not function.
That's right. Did you see, Aajonus, we were talking with a lady. I think just the Lipitor alone is a $12 to $15 billion worldwide phenomena.
Absolutely. Well, look what they've done. They've said, okay, people who have high cholesterol are in danger of heart attacks and all kinds of other nonsense.
Yeah.
And it's just the opposite. I had angina, and I had 300 heart attacks from the age of 15 and a half to the age of 22.
What do you mean 300? I mean, how do you know that?
Oh, I count them. I was having, after my third polio vaccine, I got juvenile diabetes and angina pectoris. Angina pectoris are muscle spasms in and around the heart. Now, when they saw me holding my chest and passing, I was autistic, so I really couldn't communicate until I was 22. So they would see me grabbing my chest, falling to the left, and passing out. So my mother took me to a cardiologist, and they hooked me up to the EKG and EEG and did all the tests. But what they looked for is they looked for congenital malformation or congestion. And, of course, I was 15 and a half years old. I had none of those other things, or else the congenital heart disease would have come up early in my life. But none of that existed. They didn't look at the fact that the chemicals in the vaccine entered my muscle tissue, the heart, and caused muscle spasms. It's just like you can't see congenital deformation in the muscles nor congestion in the muscles when you have lactic acid buildup. That's just the end product of metabolism. And if that collects in the muscles, you get a Charlie horse. Well, that's what the kind of chemical assault on my heart from the vaccine with the mercury, the formaldehyde, the aluminum, ether, and detergents, and 40-some other toxins in that polio vaccine. So they went into the heart muscles and were causing Charlie horses. So those are heart attacks.
Those are heart attacks. Huh?
Those are heart attacks.
Wow.
But I'm glad they didn't diagnose it because they didn't give me any medication. They just said it was all in my head. That's pretty good when you can cause yourself heart attacks and pass out.
That's great, man.
That's pretty evolved mentally, right?
Oh, man. Aajonus Vonderplanitz is our guest. We Want to Live, WeWantToLive.com.
And it's numeral 2.
Yeah, numeral We Want to Live. To live.
The numeral 2.
Yeah. And Patrick Timpone, One Radio Network. We're live every morning between 9 and 11 o'clock. Don't forget, we have all the archives, over 1,300, absolutely free worldwide, no cost, not a penny, nothing, not a Federal Reserve note, nothing. You just get them all free. It's 25 before the hour. Now let's get crazy the last half hour, okay? Let's see how much trouble we can get into. Let's start with this question about urine therapy. This is from Cheryl in Cypress, Texas. Please ask Aajonus about urine therapy and hypothyroid. My 19-year-old son and I have used this therapy for almost a year. More recently, while following Aajonus' diet mostly, my son completely cured his hypothyroidism and has been off the medicine for 3 months. Mine went up and down for several months and finally stabilized. I'm on less medicine than before, and there's really some improvement. Any thoughts on this?
Well, urine therapy, when you consider what urine is, then you'll understand it. Urine is nothing other than the blood without the red and white blood cells in concentration and ammonia added to it. Now, the kidneys produce ammonia. They produce ammonia to repel the red and white blood cells from entering the kidney, because if you urinated your red and white blood cells every time you urinated, of course you'd be anemic. So that's what happens. Now, whatever's left, without the red and white blood cells, is the concentration nutrients that we're feeding the blood and other cells. So reprocessing, those nutrients is a wise thing if you do not digest your proteins well the first time through. In India, where they eat a lot of dairy, raw dairy, and no meats, they still have protein deficiencies, so they drink their urine as a regular practice. and it's fine. On this diet with lots of raw meat and raw dairy, I haven't found that it is necessary. But some people, when they first get onto the diet, won't be digesting the proteins, all the proteins that they need, all 22 amino acids properly. So those people, if they drank their urine, would recycle those proteins one more time and have a better chance of digesting and utilizing them. And it works 90% of the time.
Here's an email from Robert. He says, I don't agree with Aajonus about the far infrared sauna. Airspace has nothing to do with it. The body is heated from the inside out.
Well, the body never raises its own temperature above 100 degrees except in fever. So I don't know where that person comes up with that. You know, the body does not heat itself up to 105 degrees except in rare cases of fever. So I don't understand.
Let's see. Here's another email from the UK. Could you ask Aajonus about, ankylosing spondylitis? Is there a cure?
Well, we had
that was another question. Yeah, same thing.
Another question earlier about that, and of course that is a blocking of the flow of the lymphatic system to get to joints and other areas of the body. And of course, toxins are forming as a process of that, and that's a disease. If you can get the lymphatic system moving with hot baths, or if you get into an infrared sauna, you better move around a lot, and then it'll work. It'll break that down, it'll melt it down, so your lymphatic system can start cleansing itself.
Coda wants to know, what can you do if one doesn't have a gallbladder?
Oh, well, you have to eat small amounts of fat at a time. We have a gallbladder. A gallbladder doesn't produce anything. It's a reserve of bile. The liver produces the bile, stores it in the gallbladder. Now, normally we contain enough bile in the gallbladder to digest 10 to 20 pounds of fat in 24 to 48 hours. So when we were hunting years ago, just several hundred years ago, we'd kill an animal, we'd eat the fat first. And sometimes we'd eat 10 to 20 pounds in 48 hours. If you did that without a gallbladder, without that reserve of bile, of course you'd have diarrhea or vomit because you couldn't break down all those fats. If you're lacking a gallbladder, then you have no high reserve. So sitting down to a quart or even a pint of ice cream is not a good idea.
Oh, really? Gosh.
So if you have a gallbladder, then you just, then you can do that kind of thing. If you don't, then you have to eat small amounts of fat throughout the day, as much as the liver can produce bile to keep up with it.
Another question in the idea of cooking, what does Aajonus think about dehydrating meat like jerky, or doing the bone broth idea of the Weston Price, cooking the bones?
Well, anytime you cook anything, you're cauterizing the minerals, especially the alkalinizing ones like calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, and potassium. The low levels of heat destroy completely cauterize the calcium.
Cauterize, what does that mean?
Let's say you take, it's burning it into a hard substance, like taking malleable clay and firing it at any cone. It's going to be a brittle, hard substance. That's what happens to minerals. Huh. So, it's not the greatest idea, not a way to handle it. You're going to get over mineralizations because your body's trying to use a lot of it. They have a tendency to be magnetic and bind and adhere to each other when they're cauterized. When they're non-cauterized, your body always creates a balance of mineralizations so you don't over-mineralize. So that's what I think about the cooking. Any other process, that will
dehydrating, he asked about?
Yeah, dehydrating. Well, let me give you an example. If I dehydrated your body, would you come back to life?
Only with a whole lot of water.
No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't come back to life. You'd be dead.
You'd be dead.
So the Eskimos, yearly, they will make a pemmican. They take meat and they dry it, beat it into till it becomes a flour, and then they'll add lard to it and bake it in the sun, and then make blocks of it, bricks of it, like 90-pound bricks.
Wow.
Each person will have a 90-pound brick. They only eat that if they can't find anything in the wild, if they can't find any fresh food.
It doesn't sound very good.
Well, it's still, it will give you some energy and keep you alive. How they don't have to use it, they bury it. Next spring. They will not eat it because they know it's vitamin, enzyme, and it's very deficient, very difficult to digest.
Speaking of burying it, I have feed my golden and cat grass-fed meat. Do you think it'd be interesting or helpful for them to do the high meat and put it out on the counter and let it get really spicy and then give it to them?
Cats do not like old meat.
But dogs will eat it.
Dogs love it.
And why is it good for them and us?
Well, it's already pre-digested.
Yeah.
The bacteria in the meat itself has pre-digested it. So that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Is that why animals bury their meat?
That's why many animals bury their meats, yes. They'll digest them and utilize more of it.
I think my dog just buries her bones so we can go back to Whole Foods and get another one. She buries them, doesn't find them, So, Bria, it's over there, and, I have to dig it up for her and show her where it is. She just likes to bury them, I think.
No, she'll wait for the odor to get strong.
Really?
She'll dig it up.
Yeah. So do you still do the high meat thing where you let meat just kind of get really feisty in a jar on the counter?
Absolutely.
Do you really?
Absolutely.
Man, you are my hero if you can eat that stuff. Would you please ask us, Aajonus, what is the easiest fat to digest?
The egg yolk.
Egg yolk.
Then butter next. Then any other fat. Then cream is the hardest. But yet, cream is the only one that will completely feed and nourish the brain and nervous system.
Okay, you're getting all kinds of foreign persona heat wanting to get into a debate with you on this. Oh, God. So I'll pass some of these off. Does Aajonus think that we get stem cells from the meat and organs when we eat them raw?
Yes, we do. But, the most of them are adult stem cells. If you get the bone marrow, then you can get the, embryonic type stem cells, the ones that can become any cell in the body, that could become a heart cell, a liver cell. Your adult stem cells are stem cells that are natural to a particular organ or body part. But in bone marrow, you can get the type that transform into any kind of cell.
Boy, it's pretty magical stuff. You can get in there and get that bone marrow, isn't it?
Oh, wonderful.
Boy, you see animals like dogs, they will just do whatever they can to get that out. They'll work all day long, man.
On one bone.
On one bone, just to get that bone marrow. Yep. So they know what's going on, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. They know. And then you talk about animals and vegetarian. I love to watch Bria sometimes, my golden Aajonus, and she will just scout around and shop around for just the right piece of grass.
Yes.
Just for an hour, and look around, and all of a sudden she'll say, "Oh, there it is," and she'll just take a couple pieces of grass. And isn't it amazing? I guess we have that instinct ourselves. We just have to kind of flesh that out a little bit.
Well, we don't have the instincts that they do. We're so adulterated in our diets and lifestyles and everything. It's very hard for people to have good instinct and intuition.
Yeah. So how are you and the federales getting along? Are you behaving yourselves?
Well, they don't think I am.
I know. They're always giving
you raw milk and I want raw foods, and they don't want it. They work for, Dow and Monsanto and those guys. They're not interested in our health. If they did, they wouldn't be creating these silly, E. coli campaigns and creating the monsters so that, we will get robbed of our nutrients. They don't want us to be healthy for the profits of Monsanto, and there are some people who believe that there's a conspiracy to lower the population by the government, and there is some, good support for that. If you read that Kissinger report in the 60s that say, we need to decrease the population, we need to poison people with vaccines and other injectable drugs, poison the food supply and stuff like that to lower population, because it's going to get out of hand. And by the year 1999, I think he said, or 2001, and that we need to take dramatic steps to lower the population. Well, the War Department in the mid-1960s made that a whole study. So they studied biological warfare, chemical, contamination of whole groups of people, including 1 million people in Mississippi in the 50s, in the 60s and 70s. So, there seems to be a radical charge by the federal government that is catering to this kind of consciousness or lack of consciousness, and to depriving us of health and happiness, to get rid of many of us. And I'm not going to let him do it, as long as I can move.
As long as you're moving. We've come across something I just wanted to throw out there to you, Aajonus. I think you might find this fascinating. There's a fellow, he's an attorney, Dr. Ed Rivera. Have you ever heard of him? Ed Rivera. He's out by you in California, and he's been studying freedom kind of things in the Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, the Declaration of Independence. And I'm taking a course that he's teaching, and he can show you with their written laws, literally, not a theory or just making stuff up to make it sound good, that the federal government has absolutely no jurisdiction over you or I or anyone unless you live on federal lands or state parks or Washington, D.C. or Guam. So this could be...
That is true if you're, I studied the same things, but in case after case, mainly involving the IRS, the courts have rejected it. And even though it may be true law, what Mr. Rivera is saying, the courts make the law.
Yeah, you're right, because they don't play fair.
They don't play fair at all.
You've got to stay out of courts, and
very corrupt.
Yeah, but I believe there is a way that in the future, if done properly, that you can keep them from doing stuff to you by getting them having to show that they do have jurisdiction just to mess with you. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what I'm doing is I'm arguing with the FDA's, all their bylaws say that they have jurisdiction over commerce.
Yeah,
So what I do is I eliminate commerce from our activities.
I see.
So I created an organization called Right to Choose Healthy Foods.
Mm-hmm. And that is the only thing, in my understanding, the FDA has. They only have jurisdiction with commerce in between the states.
Correct.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
I have my food sent from Pennsylvania every week.
Uh-huh. Oh, you still with Miller, Amos Miller?
Well, I have several different ones.
Yeah.
That deliver, that make the food the way I want it.
Mm-hmm.
So Right to Choose Healthy Food leases their animals, so they are the lease owners. Just like if you lease a car or anything, you're completely responsible for it, and you are the owner as long as the lease is intact. So the members of Right to Choose Healthy Foods under the umbrella of each club, and I do use different clubs so I can identify where they are. If I just had Right to Choose Healthy Food,
mm-hmm.
I have to have dozens and dozens of addresses to acknowledge it. But when I have a club name that varies, then I know who is where and what farmers are supplying, what animals we own and who's supplying who.
I see. So Right to Choose Healthy Foods, is that an organization that is getting different farmers from around the country?
Correct.
I see. And you recommend them?
Yes, I do. And mostly they supply food to members in that area.
I see.
And when you've got a private membership, there's no government oversight, regardless of what they say.
Yeah.
So that is how we've been able to do it. The FDA filed a suit against one of my federal suit in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, against one of my Amish farmers, saying that they wanted an injunction for him to stop making raw dairy.
Right.
And I filed a cross-complaint in intervention saying that, wait a minute, these are my animals. The club, these are the club's animals. The members own those animals. It's their dairy. You can't tell our farmer not to work for us and produce our food. It doesn't go on. It isn't commerce. So I filed an action against them, also for racketeering and fraud and other things.
You're so feisty.
Postulating, propagating wrong information, unscientific information about the dangers of raw milk when there isn't any. It's just the opposite.
Yeah.
So, and I just got their answer yesterday. I haven't read all through it yet, but it's, again, just bogus denial stuff.
Yeah. Well,
so I keep fighting the fight.
Yeah, you just keep at it.
And I've been at it since 1971.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first time I was aware that the state of California and the federal government were trying to interfere with people's rights to good, healthy food.
Yeah, it is. It's very curious. Here we are in 2011, and we have people telling us that we can't eat this or can't eat that. Pretty strange, isn't it?
It's pretty absurd, and it's frightening, and it's going to create a revolution. I mean, there's going to be some kind of a civil war if they keep it up. And there's going to be a lot of people dying because of it. I mean, I'm not a violent person, but here I am about to take, I've been against violence my whole life. And here I am about to take a 7-day handgun course, a defensive handgun course.
And you're doing that because you feel like you may have to protect yourself somehow.
Yes, absolutely, and protect my food sources and everything else. And also I've been attacked by, I don't know if it's by the medical profession or by the government agencies, and kidnapped and damaged. So I will make sure that doesn't happen again.
Mm-hmm. Somebody wants to know, from Lancaster, if the Millers in Lancaster have been having a hard time.
Well, Miller hasn't. They received a warrant in April, and they didn't take anything. I've warned them. I also warned them with about the dairy farmer that they filed suit on. I advised them a year before they came and absconded with the food and filed this suit. So they are bothering some farmers, and now they're trying to push something through the courts, and we'll see what the judge does. Mm-hmm. But we'll see how the judge is going to favor either our right to be healthy and happiness and freedom of posterity and all of that, and prosperity, or if they're going to deny us any of our rights, and then they're going to have a revolution on their hands if they do that.
Mr. Aajonus, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We really had a good time this morning. Your website is We Want to Live, and 2 is a numeral 2, right?
Correct.
Well, hope to see you real soon. We've never met, but we really feel it's an honor to have you on from time to time. So keep up your work, sir.
Well, thank you, sir, and you have a great day.
Been a pleasure. Bye-bye. Aajonus Vonderplanitz. Well, there you have it. I'm just going to go eat a raw chicken. Just kidding. It's great, man. Okay, Open Phone Friday. Thanks to all of you who are defending the far infrared sauna. Just lots of emails. We'll talk about that tomorrow and other things on Open Phone Friday. I love you all very much. It's great to be here with you. This is Patrick Timpone. Take care.
Broadcasting worldwide from the beautiful Hill Country in Texas, this is OneRadioNetwork.com.